Hoi! I am currently packing to go on a very sunny trip to Greece with a bunch of my friends, but I am, as usual, stuck with one dilemma, which is which freaking books do I bring? And I thought it would be fun to take you along for the journey to figure out which of the massive pile of books that I've prepared I'm going to actually try and fit into my suitcase. A lot of you will probably have heard of the try a chapter tag, where basically you pick a ton of books, you read the first chapter of each of them, and then from there you decide which ones you want to continue reading. So first I'm going to run you through which books I'll be trying a chapter from, and then I'll be back later after I've read the first chapters to tell you which ones I'm going to bring. But first I have 3 books that I don't even need to read a chapter from, that I just know I want to bring. This will be the holiday that I finally read some Ali Smith. I'm gonna bring Autumn, which is part of her 4-book series around the different seasons. This is the one, if I'm not mistaken, that centers around, is it Brexit? I think it's Brexit. And then the next one is around the American elections. I've talked about Ali Smith many times. I've seen her talk loads when I was working at Penguin. She's just an incredible person to hear speak, so I'm finally going to be reading some of her stuff. Then there's one that I'm currently listening to the audiobook, but I think I'm going to switch to the physical book, and it is Circe. This one was gifted to me by the Women's Prize because it is shortlisted, and I feel like it's a very appropriate read to bring to Greece because this is a classic myth retelling. The next one I borrowed from my friend Marion. It is a very well-loved and well-read copy of Outlander. Yes, it is happening. It's a TV show that I love, and I thought this would be perfect holiday reading. All right, next up we have The Contenders. So I think at max I will need another 3 probably from this long list or short list. They're all books that I really want to read, so the rest will just go back onto my shelves. Number 1, The Secret History, a classic. So many people have read it. I've had it on my shelves for years, and I think a mystery is quite nice to bring on holiday. I mean, I know that's not a revolutionary thought. Then The Girl in the Tower. This is a proof copy. This is the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale, one of my favorite books from 2 years ago. It has a bit more of a wintry setting, Russian, historical, folktales, house spirits. I mean, I know I'm gonna love this, so high on the list. So my flatmate Roseanne and I both love bringing non-fiction, dystopian, just a bit of doom and despair on holiday. So contenders for that. The Water Will Come. This was actually a birthday present that she gave me, which is a non-fiction book about the rising sea levels. Perfect holiday read. Then Woman on the Edge of Time. This was given to me by, I think it was an editor who I talked to at Penguin, and I told her I liked dystopian stuff, so she's like, you should read this. And then recently someone else recommended it again. Don't know much about it except that it's set in 2136. And then another one, again, that I've had on my shelves for ages. I again saw this recommended recently. It's like The Handmaid's Tale, but in a beehive. I'm not sure what that means. That book has been a mystery to me for a while, but it was also shortlisted for the Women's Prize for fiction. Then I've got 2 Dutch books, and I think I'll be picking between these. There is Simone van der Vlucht, De Reunie, The Reunion. Then there is also Saskia Noord, Houtpijn. Speaking Dutch and English within one sentence is hard, which is basically skin pain. It's got a really creepy eye. I don't actually know anything about The Reunion, but it's very nice that it's small. Does it say anything about the book? It really doesn't. Okay, so I'll find that out when I read the first chapter. This is about a journalist who has a dark side. I don't really know how Dutch people perceive this in general, but I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is popular fiction that you bring on holiday, and it's not very literary. But I also thought it'd be quite fun because of that reason to take it on holiday. I read 2 books by this author for my literature reading list when I was in high school, because you were allowed to have 2 free picks, and I did that. More apocalyptic stuff. Dry by Neil Shusterman and Jared Shusterman. Oh, are they brothers? I don't know. This is YA, and it is about climate change. So what happens when, I think it's the characters live in California, and suddenly there's no more water coming out of the taps. Then this author needs no introduction. Difficult Women by Roxane Gay. Pretty sure these are short stories. And then finally some thrillers. There is Lullaby, translated from French. I know lots of other booktubers have talked about this and read this. It is about a babysitter who, oh, the baby is dead. It only took a few seconds. So I think it's a babysitter that kills the baby. And then In a Dark, Dark Wood, I went to a presentation where the author talked about this book. This character is going to a party or a hen do with people she hasn't seen for ages, and they go to a remote cottage, and then things start going awry. I actually don't have loads of time left, before I go on holiday, so I'm gonna read these very quickly and let you know which ones I'll be bringing. And I'm back. I have read the first chapters. It actually was quicker than I thought it was going to be, and I've decided what I'll be bringing with me. The 3 books I mentioned earlier in the video that I'm definitely bringing have already been packed. They're not even in my flat anymore. I'm gonna very quickly run through the books that didn't make the cut and then share the final ones with you. I don't know, like this this feels like such a big decision to me every time, and I don't know if you can relate to that. I do want to put this up before I go on holiday, so I'm not going to be reviewing them in this video, but I'll do that after I come back. Oh, by the way, before I get super into it, I think I made a little like list of rules for myself, or basically a list of what I'm into for holidays specifically. Number 1 is that it needs to be a page turner, really compelling, have like a strong plot, a bit of an adventure perhaps. Then I want to make sure that there is enough variety in the books that I'm bringing. So if I'm not in the mood for one thing, I can go to another thing. And then finally, I want it to be one that I can pick up quickly and read for 15 minutes, but that also works as like something that I can just read for hours and hours on end. All right, the ones that didn't make it. Woman on the Edge of Time. This is one that I'm actually really interested in reading. I liked the first chapter a lot. It does have that Handmaid's Tale vibe, especially because of when it is set. At least the beginning chapters are, but I think I already had enough kind of dystopian themed stuff for my trip, so that's why it's not coming along. Another one that I really want to read, I enjoyed the first chapter a lot. It was really compelling, and it was Lullaby, the one about the nanny murdering the children. I was really tempted to read this just before I go on holiday, but again, there's no space for it. But no doubt I will read this very soon. Then there is The Bees, and I was reading the first chapter of this yesterday. The prologue is about people, and then the first chapter I just went, I think this is about like actual bees. I wasn't very into the writing style, which is why I am leaving this one behind. Then the Dutch one, this was really intriguing. It starts off at a fertility clinic. Really liked the writing style of this. Would probably like fly through this really quickly, but it was kind of going neck to neck with one other book in the same category, and it lost out. Difficult Women, Roxane Gay. The first story is really interesting about 2 women who are going away from their hometown for some reason, and you find out what that reason is as you're reading the story. Very intense, maybe not quite for poolside reading. Then 3 more that didn't make it. Dry by Neil Shusterman. Again, because I have enough in that similar category, and I think I'd read this really quickly, so I'm just gonna save this for later. In a Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. I don't read a lot in this genre, which I guess is thrillers, and I wasn't super into the main character, who actually has a lot in common with me, but I think I wanted to be taken like further outside of my world, I guess. I mean, I think it's gonna get a lot more gruesome, but yeah, didn't quite click with this one. And then finally, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I will not be bringing this on holiday. Very cool first chapter. I can tell that this would be like a very immersive book. I don't know, but I think maybe too much of a, I don't want to say a challenge. Emily was saying that you really like get wrapped up in this book, but I guess this is not like quite the setting I want to be taken to. I don't know if that is all like super vague. But here are the final books that I'm taking with me. First one, I mean, it had a big advantage because of the package it comes in. It is the little flip back, The Reunion by Simone van der Vlucht, the Dutch one. And because I have a suitcase and it will be hard to take my book out of my suitcase as soon as I'm on the plane, this is one that's just going to be like, I don't know, like in my pocket like that. I mean, I also read the first chapter and I thought it was interesting, similar setting to my hometown, or it started at like a beach town in the Netherlands. I'm very intrigued by that, so this is kind of taking the Dutch book slot and the thriller slot. Then, I mean, this was kind of inevitable. The Water Will Come. Really impressed with the prologue of this. Paints a picture of what could happen to Miami if the water levels rise, and I think from the names of the chapters it seems like it's going to be like different scenarios of what could happen. Really compelling writing. This is my cheerful poolside read. And then there was one that I actually forgot about because it was on my nightstand, and it's one that I had already read the first chapter of, and actually maybe the first 2 chapters, and it is the 5th season. I've mentioned this before. My boyfriend bought it for me because he absolutely loved reading this and really wanted me to read it. A planet-changing event happens at the beginning of this book. There are these characters that are different from everyone else, and a lot of them live in hiding, and you follow these different characters. It's like one of them gets discovered and has to run away. One of them gets, like a child gets, I guess, like given away as a slave. This author keeps winning the Hugo Award, so it can only mean good things. And this one kind of has the epic adventure thing covered, as does the last one, which is The Girl in the Tower. Now I know this is a wintry setting, so this is the like Russian folktale adventure setting, because I love The Bear and the Nightingale, the first one. I actually didn't read further than the first page, because as soon as I got back into it, I was like, this is the one that's I'm just gonna sit down and read and read and read, so it's coming with me. All right, well that means I'm ready to start cramming these books into my suitcase. If you wanna keep up with what I'm doing in Greece, get some reading updates, I'll be posting on Instagram stories, so you can follow me there. Leave any of your holiday reading selection tips in the comments below, and I'll see you soon. Doei!